guys, AJ here from 3D Printing Systems again. Another maintenance video for you here today. We're going to look at replacing the wire limit switch on your Upbox 3D printer. Now there's a couple of reasons why you might have to replace this part. Most likely scenarios are if you're getting a motion system error or the letter P lighting up in red on your Upbox during a print. The other scenario is when you're doing an initialization and the print head continues to move to the left, or sorry, right hand side where you're looking from the front, and it doesn't stop and you get a horrible grinding noise. Alright, so the part we're looking at placing is right here. So this is our wire limit switch. Now we're going to have to do a couple of things to get to that wire limit switch, including removing this Y gantry system where these rails are, including the extruder head. Alright, so first we're going to look at taking off these rubber belts. There's one on this side and one on the opposite side, and then we're going to look at removing these clips over here. There's 4 of them, 2 at the back on each side and 2 at the front. Alright, so to remove the belts first, all we have to do is push outward and that will release it from the clamp, and just make sure it's free. Maybe sit it underneath the plastic mount. Do the same on the other side as well. Alright, so the next part we're going to remove this clip here and this clip on the opposite side, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. Now to do that, there's one Phillips head screw underneath, so you need yourself a decent Phillips head screwdriver with the right Phillips attachment. Screw is located underneath. Make sure you get it in the right one, because there's a couple more screws for the clips that are located behind these, at least on this side. The other side should be quite easy. There's only one screw for you to locate. So now that we've removed those screws, we're going to remove these black clips from this metal rail. Now with those screws, just make sure you don't lose any. Try and put them in a little container as you're doing it, and the same with these clips. So all you have to do is lift up the rail, pop the clip off, one for that side and one for the opposite side. Now you'll notice we're only doing this on one side of the printer, but we have to do the same thing on the other side, or the other rail, exactly the same as we're doing it here. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is remove these steel rails, one on each side, out of these plastic mounts, and we want to try and slide them out the front door. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I usually do it is lift up the extruder and angle it towards yourself or towards the door. And once you've got it angled in the correct position, you should be able to slide the first rail straight out. Now don't drop the Y-axis mount at this stage, because it is connected to this black cable, and we'll show you how to do the other side. Alright, so doing the other side is very similar. A little bit easier since you've got the rail off one position. Try and slide it forward, and again straight out the front door, holding onto the extruder during the whole process, because again we've still got it connected to a couple of these cables. Now you should be able to set your extruder in place. Next part, we're going to remove this white cable, and we're also going to take out the whole mount. Alright, so to remove this white FFC cable, we've got 4 Phillips screws on the back of this cover, so we're going to take those out, and then we're going to unclip the cable. Now that we've got the cover over this cable off, we just need to remove the white cable. So there's a little black slide clip here that you can pull back using your fingernail or thumbnail. That'll release pressure on the white cable, and then pull it straight out. So next we have to get this out so that we have access to the black cable over here. So all we're going to do, twist it sideways, lift up the end with the motor, and that's going to give us access to our next part. We need to take out this red plug, remove this little cover here. Alright, now there's 2 screws here that we need to remove. You might need a smaller bit for your screwdriver compared to the one you were using to remove the black clips before. Alright, so we'll just take those out. And again, be careful not to lose these screws. They are quite small. They can be quite easy to drop on the bottom of your printer. Now once we've got those out, you should be able to take out this black printed part, and we'll have access to this black cable here. So again, unclipping the slide clip using a fingernail on both sides. No, that's not going to work. There we go. And then we can remove the Y-axis mount from the printer. Alright, so to make this easy to work with, we're going to remove our extruder. unplug the rainbow ribbon cable, pop it out of the mount. The next thing we have to do is remove this red plug here. Right, so it's important that you don't pull on the cables, you make sure you pull on the plug itself. So if you've got a pair of pliers, you're going to need them later anyway. It's usually easiest to pop this out. Right, now once we've got the plug out, the plug for the Y limit switch is just behind, alright? So we want to take that out as well and move that out of the way. Next part, we're going to take the Y limit switch out of this plastic mount. And again, you'll need these pliers to do that. Should be held in with a little piece of double-sided tape. Some might be, some might not. Grip that with your pliers and gently wiggle it out. There we go. Make sure you release the cable from the other side as well. Should come through the little gap back there. Right, so we've got the old limit switch out. Now we're going to put the new one in, doing the reverse procedure. Right, so to get that one back in, pop it through the hole. Now make sure it slots in the same direction as the previous one, so you'll notice that the ball is facing towards the front of the printer if this part was installed, and we'll just slot that back into place. So we've got our new limit switch in, now we need to put all of this back together. So I'll flip that round. I'm going to plug in our limit switch to the back of this pad, back of this circuit board. And then we'll push the circuit board back into place, holding the limit switch with your other finger to make sure those wires sit into this slot properly. Right, now from here, we'll need to put this part, we'll plug in our red cable again, or extruder motor cable, and then we'll put this back into the printer. Right, so here we're going to be doing everything pretty much in reverse to get our Y-axis carriage back into the printer. Right, so we'll start off by putting this black cable in. Now be careful of the way that it folds when you're putting this back in. Alright, so make sure our black slide clip's all the way out. That's going to allow us to put the cable back in. And once we've got the cable in, you can pop those black slides back into place. Right, and I'm just going to use a screwdriver to do the other side. It's a little bit harder to reach. Alright, black cable's back in. Now that we've got the cable in, just be careful not to put any tension on the cable, otherwise you might risk damaging it. And we'll slot our Y-axis carriage back into place, again the same way we took it out, so I usually do it diagonally, and then slot it sideways. There we go. So we're going to put these rails back in to their slots. So we'll start on the left hand side because that's the one we took out last. Pushing it through again, angling the Y carriage towards you, putting the rail through the front door. And you'll notice that we've got a little black plastic clip over here, so you want to make sure that that's at the front of the printer as well. That's a little bumper to prevent the carriage from going too far forward. Right, so we've done one side. Now we'll try and angle it in the opposite direction. We'll grab our second rail, again making sure the bumper goes towards the front of the printer. And slotting that in to our Y carriage, then setting it back in place. Alright, so we're going to put our 4 black plastic clips in place. So first one at the back, and we'll put the other 4, one at the front, 2 on the other side in the same places. Next we're going to slip our belts back into place. We've got one on this side and one on the other side. So all you have to do is lift them up, and they should slot straight in. Right, now if you did find any obstructions with your X-axis travel, you just want to check that these tensioner springs, there's one on each side, are in place. You might find that they're hitting here against the cog, or here against the pulley on the other side. All you have to do to get them back into place is hold them with a pair of pliers or move them along the belt, and just make sure that when you do move the belt, they don't hit the front of the back. Alright, so next we want to put our white FFC cable back into our circuit board behind the print head. So just making sure the black slide clip's all the way out, try and hold it with your thumb or finger until your FFC slots all the way into place, and then push the slide clip all the way in. Alright, next we'll put on our cover. So again, there's 4 Phillips screws, and that just goes straight over the top of our FFC cable, and we'll screw it back into place. now your last Y limit switch probably had a piece of double-sided tape on it. If it didn't, it might have been a little bit loose in this mount. You can see our one's a little bit loose. So we're just going to put a little bit of double-sided tape just on one side, and we'll peel that back. And then when we slot it back into place, it just means it's going to be held a little bit tighter. Alright, we'll push it all the way in, make sure that we've got the limit switch sticking out. Alright, so the last thing to do from here, once we've got our Y limit switch in place, pop our extruder head back in, plug the rainbow ribbon cable in, and put the extruder cover back on. And from here you'll want to initialize your printer and set yourself up a test print to make sure that the issue has been resolved.